What gets you, deep in the gut, are the smiles. The broad, awkward, sometimes silly smiles of people on an unremarkable day in an unremarkable town in 1938 Poland, fascinated by this new thing called a movie camera and oblivious to the fact that one day, this amateur travel movie will become a devastating historical artifact. Many documentaries tell vital and poignant stories. Only a few, though, simultaneously make as urgent an argument for the existence of filmmaking itself as does Bianca Stigt's 3 minutes, a lengthening, a heartbreaking work based on some 3 minutes of 16mm footage taken by a tourist who himself had no idea what he was capturing, no idea that in a few years, nearly everyone he filmed would be dead. He had a new camera for the trip and tried it out on some 150 Jewish villagers on an August day, milling in a square, spilling out of a synagogue, gathering near a grocery shop or inside a cafe. Young boys in caps, old bearded men, girls with long braids, they eagerly follow the camera, curious and amused by this strange contraption. This amateur travelogue becomes, then, not only a historical document, a very rare film of pre-war Jewish town life in Poland, but also a memorial. She says she watched the film and wondered, could you make those 3 minutes longer to keep the past in the present? The film, Stigt's directorial debut, is co-produced by her husband, Oscar-winning filmmaker Steve McQueen. The result is just that, a lengthening, multiplying these 3 minutes by about 20 times, explaining and exploring and elaborating. The film starts with the footage in full. The men and women and boys and girls in the square grin and offer awkward waves. Others pour out of the carved synagogue doors. For a few seconds inside a cafe, curious crowds stare through windows. If you had told him what would happen in a few years, I wouldn't have believed it probably, he says. The town's Jews were gathered in the square by Nazi soldiers bearing whips and steel bars, while their homes were looted and transported in hellish sealed cattle cars to ghettos in larger cities. Eventually, the film tells us, they were sent to the Treblinka death camp, where they were immediately murdered. Near the end of the film, Stigt lines up separate portrait shots of the 150 or so villagers in the film. Except for a few, we don't know their names. But seeing their faces pulled out from a crowd is one way of acknowledging that each was a human being of value, lost to the world. But there is no statue or memorial to the lost Jewish population, we learn. The only thing left is an absence. "3 minutes, a lengthening, a neon release." has been rated PG by the Motion Picture Association of America for thematic material involving the Holocaust. Running time, 69 minutes. 3.5 stars out of 4.